Hi, I'm Susan Carricker. I teach math at Gaucher High School, and today I'm going to show you some of the features of the Desmos graphing calculator. To start, go to desmos.com and click on the big red button that says Start Graphing. When you do that, it will open up a new screen with a place on the left for you to type an equation and a graph on the right to display that equation, or display a graph of the equation. So I'm going to do a simple equation, y equals 2x plus 3, and you will see it quickly puts the graph together and locates some interesting points, which would be the intercepts. If I hover my mouse over these little gray dots that appeared, you'll notice that it displays the order pair for that point. If you click on that point, it will make that label stick so that you can see it without having your mouse there. So this is a great tool to use in your classroom when you're teaching, to display a graph and some critical points on that graph to your students. Another thing you can do is, instead of using numbers to represent your slope and y-intercept, you can place letters like A and B, and it will pop up a button that says Add Slider. So notice it has an A, Add Slider A. When I click on A, it turns that A into a variable, and then you can change the number that represents by sliding this dot. So the kids would grab this and drag it to the left and to the right to make the numbers larger and smaller. You can also press the arrow here. This is a play button, and it will automatically move the number up and down so that you can just focus on what the graph is doing. So notice as A is larger, the graph is steeper. The graph will go in a negative direction when A is in the negative area, and so on. So click stop to stop it, or you can actually just click on the dot and start dragging it again. So that's a really neat feature. I'm going to go ahead and put the 2 back, and then I'm going to delete my slider. Another thing that you can do is you can adjust your window. I actually like this window, but let's say you don't like this window. You want to maybe zoom in. You can use these plus signs and these minus signs to zoom in and zoom out. This also works with the wheel of a mouse. So if you have a mouse, you can use the wheel of the mouse to zoom in and to zoom out. To get a more refined graph, click on the wrench, which represents your graph settings, and you have many different things here you can change. So you can change your x minimum maybe to a -5, and your x maximum to a +5. The step would be your intervals. You can do the same here, or you can press zoom square and it will set your y's for you. So to make a square window, notice it went a little further. You can also remove the minor grid lines, add arrows to your x and y axis. So there's quite a few things you can do. You can add a label where it says x-axis and add y for y-axis. If you're in trigonometry and need to use radians and degrees, this is your setting at the bottom to change that. And then finally, here at the top, it says projector mode. If you're displaying a graph for the class on a projector or a monitor, you can click on projector mode and it will bold your graph. If you take it off, it makes it not quite as bold. I'm going to go ahead and change my y minimum to -7 and my y maximum to 7, and I'm going to count by ones, and it's going to put more grid lines. When you click off of that box, you will be able to see your graph. One of the really awesome features is this ability to drag this graph around. So you can click anywhere on the screen and then pull the graph in the direction you want it to go. This is a very intuitive thing, and students take to it pretty quickly. So if you want to just move your graph around instead of adjusting the window by typing numbers, that is one way to do it. So let's go ahead and take a look next at the keyboard. Most of the things that we type don't really require a keyboard, but down here at the bottom, you'll notice it says Show Keypad. if you'll pull this up, some of your math symbols will be located down here, like square root, or if you need to raise something to a power, an exponent of 2, absolute value. Over here on the right where it says functions, you can click on that and you can arrow to the right, or not right, you can use these labels at the top to get to some of these other things. One of the things I used was a logarithm for my Algebra 2 class, so you would find that in here. Or if you're doing calculus, you've got your derivative symbology. And under statistics, it's got some of your statistics that you can use. Trigonometry, so your trig functions are all located under your functions menu. Most things you don't need the keypad for. You can just manually type them. And so I'm about to show you that. I'm going to go back to this equation and I'm going to replace this with f of x equals x squared. Well, shift 6 makes the exponent, so I can use that without the keyboard. And then I'll do minus 3x, and we'll just leave it at that. So you notice it immediately created this parabola, and immediately I've got these points. The x-intercepts are showing and the vertex of this parabola. If I press those, I can see the ordered pairs related to those. And I can take those back off if I don't want those displayed. Another key feature of this software is a table. I can create a table and use it to represent points on this graph. So here on the top left, you'll see this plus sign. If you'll click on plus, you can click on table. And then in the table where it says Y1, I'm going to type in F open parentheses x1. It will automatically make that one a subscript, and I didn't know that the first time I did this. I'm going to type in 0, 1, 2, and 3, and you'll notice it's adding those points to my graph. So maybe I don't really need the one at the 0. The one at the -1 might be more interesting since I already know the one at 0, and the 3, maybe the one at the 4 would be better. So I'm going to put that one. So to add extra points to your graph other than the critical points that were already given, your students could create this equation. Another nice thing is that it will evaluate a function at any point. So let's say I want f of x and let x be 1.2. It will graph 1.2, or it will produce 1.2. It did not graph it, but it did show me the output. So you can evaluate that function at any point just by using that feature. Another thing that you can do in the Desmos calculator is add as many equations as you want. So I've left the parabola in that I have. I'm going to add a second equation. So I'm going to say g of x equals, and let's do the horizontal line 4. And so it added the horizontal line to the graph, and you'll notice it immediately put these gray dots where the two lines are intersecting. So as usual, I can click on those dots and it's going to display the ordered pair for those points of intersection. So this is a real quick and easy way to solve a system of equations using Desmos. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is how you can take your graphs in Desmos and then use those to create graphs for documents, or maybe your students can come in and create a graph and use that graph in an assignment. And there's quite a few options here. So let's spend some time exploring different ways to export your graph. Here on the right top, if you're in the browser, is an arrow, and this is a button that will allow you to share your graph out. The easiest way to do that is just to copy the link and paste it, and then other people will have access to your graph. Now, it's important if you want to save this graph that you title it. So you'll notice over here it says untitled graph. I'll need to rename this something that makes sense to me, maybe the name of my assignment, so that people can find it easily. But I could just share out this link and then students could come in to see this graph themselves. I can print it onto paper. But the most important feature, if you're on the desktop, is the export image. So if you click on that, it's going to pull up this pop-up that you can use to kind of fix the graph the way you want it. I actually really like this one. It's not showing those key points for whatever reason, but I can adjust the size down. So this would be a very basic graph with most of the information stripped out, but sometimes that's all you need. Maybe you're making a card activity and you want a lot of little graphs that are just basic like this one. This would be a real easy way to do it. You might want to make it larger. You could make the line thickness more or less. And so there's quite a few options here. These at the bottom are some graphic embossers. I don't really use those myself, but the ones up here for the most part are really good. The medium square with thin lines tends to work well. You will be given an option to download to a PNG. If they're on the Chromebook, it's going to ask them to copy it to clipboard, which is really your best option if you're on the Chromebook. So they can just copy that and paste it directly into their Google Doc or their Google Slides or whatever program that they're using. So it's really nice to do that. Now, if you click on this arrow, there's an option to download an SVG. So in case you don't know what that is, this is in beta. And SVG is a vector graphic, which is high resolution, that will not lose the quality if you stretch your graph out or resize it once you've copied it. So this is a good option if you're creating a graphic to put into an assignment and you don't want to have to worry about losing the resolution or the look of the graph if you have to resize it to fit the space that you have on your assessment. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is maybe embedding a Desmos graph into a web assignment or in any assignment that allows for embed code. So a lot of you may not want to do this, but some of you might. So let me show you this option. If you click on share your graph, on the right side it'll say embed. So when you click on that, it's going to pop up this text that you will copy. If you're on Google Sites, you can go into Google Sites and actually paste this embed code. That's one of the 4 main options inside Google Sites, and it will put a Desmos graph right there on your site for other people to see or even interact with. So that's a really nice feature. I would encourage you to explore that. The last thing I want to do today is show you some of the really cool activities associated with Desmos. And in the future, I hopefully can give y'all another workshop on the activity builder within Desmos that we can use to create lessons, assessments, and all other types of learning activities. Okay, so for the last part of this training, I want you to go to teacher.desmos.com. This is a completely different website from the graphing calculator, and this is specifically for teachers. And at this site, you will find an enormous number of activities. And because of the COVID-19 crisis, there have been just countless numbers of activities added to this because people are starting to develop their own. And there is an activity builder that you can use to develop your own. So I would encourage you, if you are tech savvy and interested in doing that, to come in here and take a look and try yourself. So I've done these for quite some time. So I'm going to click on my history to kind of show you some of the ones I truly, truly love. And one of my favorite activities is the marble slides. And they have different marble slides activities. The first one I've used was the lines activity. It's for linear equations. The students will come in here and I'm going to show you what this looks like. So let's go to this slide and I'm just going to take you a look. Let you take a look at an example. So you can just kind of see what it does. If you click launch, it will show it makes the little balls land on your stars. And so the kids really enjoy this. What the students do is they use the equation over here and modify it so that and then it gives them instruction inside of the program. So as you go through here, you'll notice, this is one of my students actually did this one. You can go in and display a student activity up on the screen for the other students. But these are great fun. So the marble slides activities, there's quite a few of them. You can go in and preview one as a student and just kind of go through the activity and see if it's something you would like to do with your students. So I'm going to go back out. I want to show you something that's even better. Right here, search for an activity. So let's say you are in quadratics and you are teaching this to your Algebra 1 or your Algebra 2 classes. When you search quadratics, it's going to pull up all of these activities, and there's quite a few. And one of them that you'll see will be polygraphs. So when you see polygraphs, these are vocabulary builders, and they're really, they get kind of noisy, but I've used them quite a few times. And these allow your students to describe graphs to other students, and it actually helps them understand the purpose in having the vocabulary so that you can accurately describe what the graph is looking like. So here's a functions polygraph. So the student would describe this to another student who would then guess which function. It's a lot of fun if you've never tried it. So I would suggest polygraph activities are a good starter. And then there's the most popular. When you click on this, it's going to show you some of the ones that are most popular. And just this year, they've added this designation, distance learning. So when you see this pink, it means it's something students can do online. The marble slides are very popular. I actually did the match my parabola with my distance learning. Land the plane. This one's really good too. I believe that was a linear functions unit. Match my line, that's definitely linear function. And notice there's even some things in here to do with middle school. So this would be a middle school finding the volume of a cylinder. Transformations, those are really fun. So this could be a middle school assignment. So it's not exclusively high school. So just keep that in mind. There are middle school activities in here, and you can search for those. So again, if you've never checked out teacher.desmos.com, very interesting, fun activities already put together. Lots of conversation about these activities on Twitter. So you can go to Twitter and then just search for Desmos, and you will find countless people who are not just using these activities but writing their own. So you might find something even more interesting that would work with your kids. So hopefully today you have learned a little bit about Desmos, at least enough to continue to explore. And again, I am Susan Carricker. I teach at Gaucher High School. If you have a question, please do not hesitate to drop me an email. And you can find me on Twitter. I'm Gaucher Sue on Twitter. Y'all have a great day.